Oh man, these ice raids are making these people angry and confused. Ladies and gentlemen, I got a clip from TikTok here, and it poses the question of who gives you the right to remove people from your places. And I think this is a biblical question. So naturally, seeing how they introduce God into the picture, let's listen to it, and let's talk about the scriptures.
Y'all, to kick people out the country. Who died and made y'all king? Who died and made you king? This land does not belong to us. It don't belong to none of us. This is God's land.
I think the problem with that is your land is only your land as only as long as you're able to keep it. That's number one. And number two, when talking about who has a right to land and then try to bring in God into the picture, well, that undercuts everything. And we're gonna see why in a moment.
God put us all here. Okay? Let's be clear on that. We all welcome all around this. If China want to come over here and roam freely, that's fine. If we want to go to China and roam freely, that's fine. The land belongs to all of us. It's not yours.
If you want to go in Roman China, listen, you better have your passport and you better be able to integrate into their society because foreigners have been removed from all types of places across the world, whether it's what is it, South Korea or for the Philippines and China. Yeah, it doesn't matter where you go. You gotta respect the people's land, and so you're not free to do anything outside of or remain within boundaries.
It's not mine. God gave this earth to us. So for y'all to be out here trying to kick people out of here, do this and do that, for what? Y'all gonna burn in hell. Nah, but for real.
And so she thinks that people are gonna burn in hell, which is crazy because if that's the case, then is God gonna burn in hell for giving people, I guess, authority? You see, the Bible starts off in Genesis. Genesis literally means the beginning, and it starts off with kind of identifying man very particularly when it comes to God's creatures. It says, God, this is God speaking. He says, let us make man in our image after our likeness. Yet, so our indicates that there's a plurality to the one God, but we won't talk about that here. It's only God speaking. He said, let us make our man in our image. And then he says, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the heavens, over the livestock, and over all the earth. Dominion. Dominion literally means rule. And over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So whatever lives here, it's under our authority, and wherever here is all the earth, it is under our dominion. And this is given by God. He says, let them have dominion. Let those who exist there have dominion. And so this is where we kind of start at, right? This is just who man is. We are made to have dominion. But then we see God directly giving indications of giving individuals space, certain spaces, right? We got Deuteronomy chapter 1, verses 21. It says, see, the Lord your God has set the land before you. Go up and take possession as the Lord, the God of your fathers, has told you. Do not fear and do not be dismayed. The language is very clear. There's a possession that is yours. It belongs to you, and it's directly given by God himself for you to hold, for you to claim. And so this idea that the land belongs to everybody is a fairy tale. It doesn't make sense. God gave the land to be possessed by people, and he's set up people to live there, to have this dominion as image bearers. It's like this idea of land belonging to certain people is so intrinsic that even in the book of Psalms, verses 8 of chapter 2, it says, ask of me. So this individual can ask of God, and I will make the nations your inheritance and the ends of the earth your possession. And so there's levels to this possessing thing where there's individuals, like all human beings have a sort of dominion, and yet certain individuals have claim to certain lands, and certain individuals have a claim to everything. And it makes sense, right? Acts chapter 17 verses 26 is described here by Paul, like as in like all of this, all of the earth and every last thing here is described like this. He says, and he made from one man every nation of mankind to live on all the face of the earth. So just reiterating things from Genesis, right? Having determined allotted periods, so times and boundaries of their dwelling place. This is important because if that's the case, why don't people, like, he answers this kind of question of why don't certain people have lands for a certain amount of time? Well, right, why isn't the time indefinite? It's because God has determined that there are certain times where you'll have this and where you will not. This is very clear, right? In the Old Testament, Israel's pushing some people out, right? Because God's given them this land of a land of milk, and honey, right? Flowing with milk and honey. And of course, certain individuals have their place and have their existence indefinitely. It's been thousands of years. We've seen nations rise, empires fall, and this is because God is determining these people shall have these places. And this is important because this inherently relates to authority. We got places in the book of Romans that I could have addressed here, but I think I'm gonna keep having to use that verse. So I try to be a bit different this time. But it talks about it in 13. Hey, you subject yourselves to the governing authorities. These state authorities, they have right of passage. They have authority to execute righteousness, and it's God ordained to exist for righteousness' sake, to enforce justice. And so listen to them. But I think we'll end here in Luke chapter 20 verses 21 and 25, where Jesus is given a very interesting question. And it starts off in verse 21, where the Pharisees are asking him this tempting question: Teacher, we know that you speak and teach rightly and show no partiality, but truly, I say, truly teach the way of God. Is it lawful of us to give tribute to Caesar or not? Now, context means everything. Naturally, they start off with some flowery language, saying, Jesus, you really do what you do well, and we respect that, right? But we have this pressing question about Caesar. Caesar is a pagan authority. He's a state authority, governing authority, but he's a pagan authority, and we're trying to figure out whether or not we should give that man respect by listening to him. Because paying tribute just means paying taxes. If you're paying tribute, right? If you're paying tribute to the United States, you pay your taxes, right? And so on. If you pay tribute to China, they're paying their taxes, right? So it makes sense, right? But if he's not in alignment with God, how do we navigate that? It's an important question, but it's a tempting question. Now, verse 23 says, Jesus perceived their craftiness and said to them, "Show me a denarius." What's a denarius, you might ask? It's like, so some of your translations may have a penny or something like that, but essentially, show me this territory's currency, right? The way they do business, their money. Show me it. And it's interesting here that he asks, what likeness and inscription does it have? Now, they produce this money, and they look at it and they answer his question. They say, this is Caesar's inscription. This is Caesar's likeness. Because obviously, we like to put faces on money. Verse 25, he answers with this: then render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. This is clear. His statement is emphatic. You are in his land, and you use his currency, right, to do business. Therefore, listen to him. Why? Well, it's because these things, like paying tribute to Caesar, aka paying taxes, doesn't hinder you from worshiping the true God, right? Jesus said, famously in one verse concerning the woman at the well, he said to her, "Wait a minute, like, you need to understand that you need the Messiah, and if you knew who I was, you would want to give you, like, you would ask me, and I'd give you living water. But understand that they will no longer solely worship in Jerusalem. They will worship, the true worshipers will worship me in spirit and truth, right? Like, you will worship the Father, not merely in this select location. He's saying this because the art of worship will not only be sacred practice, but also a truthful spirit. These things will be one and the same everywhere, and this is obviously concerning the narrative of God subjecting the world to Himself in righteousness, right? But that's for another day. The point here is these the things of God are not hindered by even a pagan ruler, and even though that pagan ruler is not doing what is righteous, he is still in his position, and his authority is legit. Therefore, don't neglect his sovereignty. Don't rebel against him. And why is that? Well, simply put, I mean, empires rise, empires fall, but obviously governance is given by God, and so naturally we shouldn't just rebel against these things just for the sake of not wanting to listen to them. Like, oh, I don't like that you have control. Well, take it up with the Lord. He put them there, right? I mean, funny enough with Trump, I mean, this is a guy who barely dodged a bullet when we've seen, or even recently, as of the last 4 months, like how deadly those things can be. Unfortunately, God rest the soul of the dead. And so, when God wants somebody in charge, that person will be where God puts them. And so, with that being said, I won't go too much longer. The point is very clear. God has given man dominion to rule. He's given authority to govern, and therefore, yes, don't let anger or your frustrations with this current administration cause you to rebel against what God has established. Because yes, He has given people control. With that being said, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think I hit the nail on the head, or do you think no, the lady's right? Like, who gave us control? How dare you? But however you think, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one. God bless and stay blessed.